Welcome back to The Critique. Today we're looking at a health guide for seniors that uses a fictional narrative to teach nutrition. So let's just jump right in.
Yeah, this one is a really bold swing. It tries to blend, a sitcom script with what's essentially a medical guide. But I think the first big area for improvement is, well, while the story format is really engaging, the dialogue is so heavy that it kind of buries the critical health info the reader needs.
I felt that tension right away. I really enjoyed the banter, it's genuinely funny in places, but then I realized I'd read a few pages and I couldn't tell you the specific fiber target. I was too focused on the jokes.
That is the exact risk. If you look at the text, the numbers are there: 25 grams of fiber, 300 grams of vegetables, 1.5 liters of water. But they're all embedded in these lines about, tiny superheroes and magic cookies.
Right, and take that scene with Grandpa New Zealand. He shows up with one single lettuce leaf, and Miss England says it weighs as much as a sneeze. It's a charming line. I definitely chuckled.
It is charming, but is it functional? You have to put yourself in the shoes of a caregiver or a senior who's coming back to this guide a week later. They're in the kitchen trying to remember, okay, how much fiber do I need?
And to find that answer, they have to sift through a whole paragraph about superheroes and sneezing.
Exactly. The humor is basically camouflaging the data.
That's a great way to put it. The humor is the hook, but you can't find the bait.
Precisely. And in the vitamin T section, it spends all this time on Grandpa's joke about tea. The actual sources: citrus, leafy greens, nuts. It's just a list tacked on to the end of a paragraph.
I'll be honest, I missed nuts on my first read. It just blended right in. So we need to keep the fun, but save the facts. Are you suggesting sort of a separation of church and state here?
I wonder if we could use something like a sidebar, or maybe a pull quote strategy. The weakness is the blending. The suggestion is, well, visual distinctness.
Oh, I love that. And since Ms. England is already the authority figure, we could just lean into that. Like, imagine a little graphic insert in the margin that's titled Ms. England's Clipboard.
That's a perfect example. You keep the dialogue, you keep the sneeze joke, but right next to it, there's a clear box that just says goal, 25 grams fiber, or target, 1.5 liters water. It just pulls the data out so your eye can find it instantly.
It's like a cheat sheet. What about for the list of vitamins?
There. I think we just need some simple formatting. Bolding, maybe? When the text lists citrus, leafy greens, nuts, those words need to pop. Maybe even bullet points. Right now, they just get lost.
There's a tone thing here too, right? The humor is great for setting things up, but I felt a little weird when the jokes carried over into the risk factors.
I completely agree. That's a really crucial distinction. Humor is fine for the what. But when you get to the why, the actual consequences like osteoporosis or arrhythmia, the text needs to switch gears. It needs to be direct.
So the joke about the lettuce leaf is fine, but the warning about your heart rhythm needs to be dead serious.
Precisely. The tone has to match the severity of the risk. A reader should be stopped in their tracks by the warnings, even if they're skimming the jokes.
And that actually connects to a deeper issue I had with the numbers themselves. Even if we bold them or put them on a clipboard, I'm not sure they're actually helpful yet. So I think the text provides accurate goals, but it completely fails to translate those abstract numbers into, a visual plate-based reality for seniors.
Yes, it says 300 grams of vegetables. But I have to ask, does the average 80-year-old, or frankly, do I, know what 300 grams of vegetables looks like without a scale?
I have absolutely no idea. Is that a cup, a whole bag? And that Grandpa New Zealand scene, it uses his confusion as a punchline. He brings the leaf, he gets mocked. But the text never actually answers the question he's asking, which is, if this isn't enough, then what is?
That's the core weakness. It points out the knowledge gap but doesn't fill it. It almost makes the reader feel a bit stupid for not knowing, instead of, empowering them. And that line about calcium-fortified foods, it's accurate, but so vague. Which foods?
It feels like the research was done, but not the synthesis. So how do we fix that? We need to go from abstract to concrete.
The suggestion here is pretty simple. Do the math for the reader. Don't ask a senior to weigh their food. Just describe the volume in terms they'll get. Translate grams into servings.
Okay, so for the 300 grams of vegetables, what would that rewrite actually sound like?
Something like
2 cupped hands full of leafy greens. Or maybe 1 fist-sized portion of cooked squash.
Visual equivalence, that's so much better. So Miss England shouldn't just say, that's too small. She should say, Grandpa, you need a pile of greens the size of your hat.
The size of your hat, that is perfect. It fits the voice, but it's also a real instruction you can follow without any special equipment.
And for the calcium-fortified foods?
Get specific and get relevant. Instead of a broad category, list things like calcium-fortified orange juice or mention a couple of specific breakfast cereals that are popular with that age group.
You know, you mentioned cooked squash a second ago. I think there's another layer to this usability issue. Why cooked specifically?
Well, it's about really knowing your audience. We're talking about seniors. Dental issues are a real thing. The advice in the draft to eat nuts or raw carrots might be physically painful for someone with dentures or sensitive teeth.
That is such a good point. I didn't even think about the crunch factor.
Yeah, so a great concrete thing to add would be to suggest cooked versus raw options, like steam your broccoli until it's soft to get your fiber without hurting your teeth. It shows a deeper empathy. It says, I understand what your actual life is like.
That empathy, that's the bridge from just being information to being advice. And honestly, that's where the draft struggles most for me. The text identifies these real psychological barriers to healthy eating, but then it just dismisses them with a joke instead of offering a real strategy.
This was the part that really stood out to me. Let's look at the hydration section. Grandpa says, water makes me visit the bathroom too often. Now, he's talking about nocturia, right? Waking up at night. That is a massive, massive issue for seniors. It messes up your sleep, your mood, and honestly, a walk to the bathroom in the dark is a huge fall risk.
It is a totally legitimate fear. And Miss England's response in the draft is, dehydration will make you visit the doctor even more often.
It's a clever comeback. It works on a sitcom. I can practically hear the laugh track. But in a health guide, it's dismissive. It creates this false choice. Either you're up peeing all night or you end up in the hospital. It doesn't solve his problem, it just kind of shames him for it.
It feels like such a missed opportunity. The writer obviously knows this is a barrier, or they wouldn't have put it in the dialogue. But they chose the punchline over the solution.
Exactly. And you risk alienating the reader who genuinely struggles with this. So the suggestion really is to offer a middle path.
So how do we rewrite that? We need to validate the fear, not just shut it down.
You can keep the joke if you want, but you have to follow it up immediately with a practical tip. Miss England could say something like, you're right, nobody wants to be up all night. To avoid those trips, try to drink 80% of your water before 5 p.m.
That is so actionable. It validates the problem, nobody wants to be up all night, and then it solves it. Front load your water.
Or you could suggest sip strategies, drinking smaller amounts consistently through the day instead of chugging a huge glass, which is what triggers the bladder. That's the kind of expertise that adds real value.
And I guess this applies to the fiber section too, right? If you tell someone to suddenly eat 25 grams of fiber when they're used to eating like 0, that's going to be uncomfortable.
Oh, absolutely. If a senior jumps from 10 grams to 25 overnight, they're going to have major bloating and gas. The text needs to offer the solution. Start slow, increase your fiber over a few weeks to let your body adjust. It's about moving from do this or else to here's how to do this comfortably.
It changes the entire tone from a lecture to a partnership. We're in this together.
Exactly. And speaking of who is in this, we have to talk about the characters.
Yes, the whole setup.
Mr. America, Miss England, Grandpa New Zealand. The logic of that metaphor seems, a little strained.
It felt so arbitrary. The guide ends with this beautiful, warm message about family and love and intergenerational support. It's very Sunday dinner, but the characters are named after countries, so it feels like I'm reading the notes from an international summit.
That is the disconnect. As a reader, my brain is trying to decode the allegory. I'm distracted. I'm sitting here thinking, why is the expert an American? Is there a cultural commentary here? Are Americans known for being obsessed with hydration?
Right. Is Mr. America supposed to be loud? Is Miss England supposed to be polite?
It just wastes mental energy on things that have nothing to do with health.
And the whole thing is framed as a nutrition intelligence meeting, which just sounds so bureaucratic. It sounds like the UN. And it clashes so hard with that ending about finding love in every meal.
So the suggestion is really to align the character identities with the tone of the piece. If the destination is family, the car needs to be family too.
Yes. And I think there are two ways to fix this. One, just rename the characters to fit their roles. You know, the diligent doctor, the loving daughter, the skeptical grandpa. It makes the dynamic instantly clear. You stop thinking about geography and start thinking about relationships.
That clears it up immediately. But what if the author is really attached to the country names?
Then they have to make them relevant, lean into it, make Grandpa New Zealand suggest kiwi fruit for vitamin C, or talk about the active outdoor lifestyle there.
Whereas England could talk about hydration in the context of tea, maybe. Mr. America could talk about portion sizes. That's a very American topic.
Exactly. Right now, the names are just labels. You have to earn the metaphor. If you're going to use it, really use it.
And I'm assuming we'd also need to change that nutrition intelligence meeting title.
Definitely. Change it to Sunday Family Dinner or the Weekly Kitchen Council. Something domestic, not political. It sets the stage for that emotional payoff at the end and makes the whole thing feel cohesive.
That makes a ton of sense. It harmonizes the opening with the ending. So, okay, let's try to pull this all together. We have a piece here with a lot of potential. It's creative, the facts are right. But to make it really work,
To make it work, we need to separate the signal from the noise. We need those visual sidebars and formatting to pull the data out from the jokes. And we need to stop asking seniors to do math and start giving them visual tools. Hats, fists, cups.
and we need to treat their fears with respect.
Yes. Replace the witty comebacks with empathetic, practical strategies. Don't just tell them they're wrong. Show them how to do it right, comfortably. And finally, fix the wrapper. Make the characters in the setting match the real heart of the message, which is about family taking care of each other.
It's about shifting the focus from being clever to being kind.
That's it exactly. My call to action here is this. Take another look at Grandpa New Zealand. Don't just let him be the comic relief who gets dunked on by the experts. Use his character to voice the real, uncomfortable struggles of your audience, the dentures, the bladder issues, the confusion, and then let the other characters solve those problems with compassion. If you can do that, this won't just be a funny guide, it'll be a guide people actually use and trust.
We would love to see that next draft. Send it back to us when you're ready. And thank you for submitting your work to the critique.